Welcome back to the Adventure Athletes podcast. As I always say, we've got another amazing guest today, and I know I say it every episode, but I really do believe it. We've got Gavin Long from V Plus Climbing Coaching, where we speak about training for climbing, speed climbing, and dealing with fear, which is obviously a big topic when we speak about climbing. Now, if you like this episode, make sure you share it around with anyone that you think's interested. Even just a share is a massive help in helping the podcast to grow. Give us a follow on Spotify and Instagram, where we'll be sharing content daily. And yeah, if there's anything that you want to hear about or anyone you want to hear from, drop us a DM and we'll make sure to get back to you. Now, like I said in the last episode, me and Taylor have just opened up 5 coaching spaces on our semi-bespoke and bespoke training plans. So if you want to find out more about that as well, drop us a message and we'll send you all the details. And until then, enjoy the podcast.
Last episode, last 2 episodes, we had 2 friends of mine on that I've met through the strength and conditioning world. One is Joe, also known as the Stanley PT. He's an amazing coach, ex-army medic, and he's had a stammer his whole life as well. So obviously been in the coaching industry, quite a unique perspective. And we've got Jack Spillett, who I would say is arguably one of the best S&C coaches in Wales, and he also lectures in S&C as well. So Joe, we'll start with this question first, which was obviously with your athletes' achievements, you're a successful climbing coach, so physically develop them.
Yeah.
But how do you develop your climbers' mindsets and not just the physical capabilities of them?
Oh, Dan, that's a good question, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Doing our job for us.
Yeah, he really is, man. He really is. So how I develop the mindset of each of my athletes is making sure they understand that the biggest one to me is if they have ambition or goal and they don't achieve it, they're going to feel absolutely rubbish and they're not going to be happy with what they're doing. So what I like to do is tell them, okay, let's have some process goals instead and work on things we can work on to achieve that. And then every time we can't hit something, actual achievement, let's discuss about it in a friendly manner. And what I like to do is have them in like a little cafe, in a climbing gym, have a chat, be comfortable, and then just discuss about everything. We're like, cool, these are the things that we could work on. These are the things we can't work on at the moment, but let's discuss all the stuff we can do and make sure they're in a nice environment. So that's how I work on mindset with them. Some of them I'll do meditation with them and teach them how to meditate, and then just let them take a nice breather and go, cool, let's relax, and then jump back on again.
Is there like a particular meditation style you prefer to use with your athletes?
Not necessarily. So I used to do a lot of meditation when it comes to martial arts, when I was self-training, all sorts.
Yeah.
So what I like to do is just sit in a quiet place, cross my legs, just focus on breathing. I just blank everything out, focus on breathing, probably think about one mantra that they can do. So for example, oh, cool, let's work on, I don't know, discuss about relaxation. Just say, you're relaxed, and just keep saying that for a while, and you'll probably feel quite relaxed. It's like, oh, it works, cool, let's just keep doing that then. But that's how I work with mindset. And for each individual, it's completely different.
Yeah.
Like, I'll have some boisterous athletes, and they're just really loud, they're really energetic and excited about things. So I have to take it a little bit more subtle to do mindset. Whilst then I have some people who's super calm, really quiet. And
cool. That's quite reflective, because obviously each climber has their own style of climbing.
Yeah.
You find that sort of mindset is very reflective of that as well.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you most likely see all the energetic boys just dynoing and jumping for everything and be like, yeah, I'm going to do all this stuff. It's really cool. And then you got the really calm, mellow climbers who's super smooth, flows extremely well, has a nice pace, nice rhythm, and just constantly breathes whilst they're climbing.
Yeah.
So even when they're doing long routes, they don't get really red. Well, you see someone up there, it's like, wow, you're really red, you're not breathing, are you? It's like, yeah, I didn't realise I wasn't breathing. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, you're super red, man.
I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle. Like, I'm quite quiet and flowy, but then I'll get like an explosive bit, a bit dino. But not my martial arts background, because I first did karate when I was younger, but kind of what I've done more in the last few years is Chen Tai Chi.
Yeah.
And it is an emphasis on very slow and calm and controlled. And then big bouts of explosivity and sharpness. So that's kind of, I noticed that in my climbing style as well. Very mellow, apart from when it's not mellow.
Yeah. When you need that explosive power, you can do it.
Yeah, I love that.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm not like that. I am
you're not.
Pure muscle my way through everything. strength and conditioning background. I'm like, yeah, just like this is just like a muscle up, really.
Yeah.
Yeah! Like screaming at the hold. You're not going to move around the hold, you're going to make the hold move across the water screaming at it.
Yeah.
I will submit.
Where did that hold go? Dude, I ripped it off. I don't need it. It's like, oh, maybe think about doing this. Yeah, no, Gav, I'm just going to explosively go for it.
He's like after the boy rips hold off and he's like, you don't know me, son!
I think that's why like my favourite climbing game is the one where you take the holds away as you climb. So
Yeah.
you do a route and then you're like, yeah, not using that one now, take that off. Alright, next one, take that off. And then you end up with like, you do like 2 moves and you're at the top, but then massive route.
Yeah. Big dinos.
Nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, second question then, moving on to Jack. So Jack,
Yeah.
as I said, is an amazing S&C coach. I've worked with him quite a few times with some challenges I've worked on, and I've learned a hell of a lot from this guy. I did last week as well. Every time I see him as a lesson. And he asked, what experiences can you take from climbing to help you with everyday life?
Ooh, that's another good question. Risk assessments.
Yeah?
Constant risk assessments. I know a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, take the mindset with you, so be pace, be calm. It's like, no, my one's risk assessments, because you're constantly doing it. Like, we constantly think about, cool, if I'm going for this move, how am I going to land? I was like, before I climb, I need to do checks. If you're doing routes, I need to check my beta device, need to check my climber, all sorts. So I would say everyday life, risk assessments. Because once you get into that small thing, you constantly see it everywhere.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that
Neither was
answer.
I, but I really like that. I noticed that a lot in other areas of my life, like finances. Finances, I was going to say financial, because it's one word. Finances, where you have sort of set systems you follow, like the checks you run through with climbing with your harness, your equipment, the wall, the holds, your chalk. Is this going there? Is my partner doing this? And it's like, I've kind of built that into my life in areas like finances, and having that like safety net to always fall back on.
Yeah,
and if you
pretty
follow the
smart.
system, it's kind of something's there.
No. Sounds good.
I think that's something that I learned, like I was telling you earlier, like I was in the fire service, and just the whole thing they batter into is just dynamic risk assessment, because you can't risk assess a fire. It's like, right, I'm just going to look at the size of this fire and determine and like fill out this chart, right, that's how dangerous, because by the time you've done that, it's like massive then, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just like, the whole house is burnt down because you're filling out some paperwork, so it's just constant like, right, look at that, what's dangerous, what's not, and you have to make that snap decision. And that's something I didn't realise I was doing in climbing, because I did it in the fire service for so long.
Yeah.
But thinking about it, like, that is 100% what I do when I'm climbing, and it's stuff that I do constantly, all day, every day, is I'm like, right, what's going on, how's that affecting this, and you can just like do it just by looking at it.
Yeah, 100%. So that would be my answer to Jack.
Yeah, I love that. What's your background with climbing then? Take us through for the folks who don't know at home. What do you do with climbing?
Oh man, like discipline of climbing?
Bit of everything. So your discipline of climbing, but also what you actually do with athletes for a living, because a lot of folks at home also won't know. So take us through what you do, and then we'll get into style and your ethics.
Okay. So when it comes to the climbing bit, I would probably focus on more on bouldering.
Yeah.
So I do more bouldering than route climbing.
Yeah.
Personally, myself, I just prefer bouldering. I just prefer it. It's more fun. It's explosive. You can just walk to a center and just go, I don't need rope, don't need belay. Jump onto that. When it comes to focus on my athletes, so I got some athletes that really like doing routes, some that really like bouldering, some that kind of like speed climbing, but it's not really taken off yet. So
Do you think it'll ever take off? Let's be honest.
Man, it's tough. I like speed climbing. I remember when it first came out a couple years ago, I was on it. I was like, cool, I want to be super dynamic. I want to work on like massive explosive moves. And I think it's actually really cool. I know old school climbers and die-hard climbers will always be like, no, it's not climbing. And I can get it. I know where they're coming from. You don't have to necessarily figure out a lot of the small little things. Like, oh, cool, I need to climb on this crimp, and then I gotta go do a heel hook. There's none of that. It's just go up super quick, but really explosive. But it still works on route reading. It still works on pace. It still works on explosive power. It works on strength and conditioning. It also works on being able to have super quick analytical movements as well. and being able to have twitch muscle fibers to shoot constantly.
Yeah.
So hence I like speed climbing. But would it take off as big as like lead and also bouldering? No, personally. But I wish it could.
Yeah.
Because it's already in the Olympics. We can't just take it away. We have to just keep focusing on it.
Like you were saying, like I think there's good qualities to it. I think that it's a good training tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it should end. Personally.
It's a little bit like no, so we go in the public gym and everyone's like doing this style or that style, but you see very few people training like plyometric movements. Like how few you see them around just going to do 6 reps of wall ball and they do some box jumps or and go really light and go on the bar and focus on speed or something. Like you don't really see people doing plyometric a lot.
Maybe in that sense, it's like you're saying, like that's the missing thing from a lot of people's training. Maybe that's the missing link in climbing training.
Yeah,
is they're not training the speed stuff and they're making better at like dynos and the comp style sort of movements.
Yeah, 100%. So I can see like what you were saying, Will. It's really good for the training side, and it is. I'm going to agree. It's fantastic for training, and I think people should do it more often. But a lot of people are quite fixed in their ways and just go, nah, I'm not going to do speed climbing, not my style, it's not something I'm interested in, I'm not going to do it. Which is sad, because it is a whole different thing that can actually improve your bouldering and lead climbing. But,
it's quite interesting, so we're talking about the different styles of climbing, like more flowy and slow and kind of thought out, and it's like here, take the time, it's like floating at the wall, and then you've got the more dynamic. And it's almost like if you bridge the gap between the two, there's so much crossover they give each other, because the guys who are exploding at the wall can maybe learn to slow down, develop some like really slow full range of motion strength and really take the time on certain movements and have that control and stability and flow. Whereas the flowy guys could potentially learn to have a bit more explosivity, a bit more reactivity and learn when to sort of fire through. Kind of a bit like the force development curve.
Oh yeah,
in some tradition where I was stuck in that slow, heavy kind of graceful movement for a while, but my speed was really bad. That's something I had to work on. I could imagine it's the same with climbing, where some guys who could float the wall really well might not have the capacity to actually perform a dyno as big as the guys who are into the dyno, but they might struggle to actually flow through more slower, controlled cross sections potentially.
That's pretty good. Think about it. I like it. But yeah, man, I will do the whole thing of get people speed climbing so they can't chat shit about it. Hey, it is hard, man. When I got into it, it took me, I think the boulders wall is like 10 meters high. The official was 15. And if you were to climb it super slow and do it without speed, it's 6B plus.
Yeah.
And if you speed climb it, it's way easier. But yeah, it's like if you work on it, it gets addictive, you can enjoy it. And my one went from 30 seconds to 8 seconds on the 10-meter wall.
Wow, that's not bad.
It's not too bad, but I was like, I'm going to go through this, man. I was like, I'm going to get quick. And then all of a sudden, I got a little injury and just went, I'm going to stop it for now.
Yeah.
But that was quite a while back.
Are you going to pick it back up anytime soon?
Oh no, I sprained my ankles. I was like, I'm going to keep myself for the trail races and the trail running. So I'm just going to focus on that. With some bouldering, but not so much with speed.
If someone did want to get into speed climbing, what sort of advice would you give them to start off with?
Ooh.
So I'd say just come to bouldering gym and then a couple of weeks of climbing. I'm like, I really enjoy bouldering. Maybe go on roll to be there a couple of times. And I was like, I want to try speed climbing now. What would be the advice you would give?
Learn to dyno.
Yeah.
Every single move you do is dynamic.
Yeah.
So if you go into the bouldering room, pick like a VB or V1 and just go, cool, I'm going to just do it super dynamically. I'm going to get high feet, I'm going to jump for the next move and just keep trying that. So just be prepped. Everything you do on the speed climb is all going to be dynamic. And big dynos, it's all about high feet. Get used to that. And as soon as you jump onto it, it feels like home. It feels fine. Yeah.
Cool. So staying on the topic of like how would you train for something, you've recently been to Austria with some youth athletes. So you've gotten to a decent level for climbing.
Decent level.
So how would you take someone who's just starting climbing, they just want to do like a bit of everything? What would you say are like the 3 most important things they need to do to get to like sort of above average level of climbing?
Okay, so I would say foot placement, body technique, so body twisting. In the climbing world, we call it twist lock. And the third thing I would say is getting good upper body strength. Because you can't climb without upper body strength. Unless you're climbing on super slabby walls, you might get away with it. But ultimately, when it comes to climbing, you got to use your arms and upper body.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. I had, the last couple of challenges I did last year, I lost a lot of like pulling power because I wasn't training pulling much. It was a lot of just like holding stuff and carrying like heavy stuff. And I noticed that a lot when I came out climbing is like I felt really weak.
Yeah.
And I did like a big reconditioning cycle to build everything back up, and my back got way stronger. Nice. And then when we went bouldering a couple of times, we've been back outside climbing as well, and it was a massive difference in my upper body strength and climbing. It felt so much easier just from chucking some like weight pull-ups and stuff.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. And a lot of people say, oh, you don't have to focus on doing pull-ups and upper body too much. But you're going to be limited on how much you can push yourself.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at the IFSC climbers, right, and all the Olympians that's climbing, none of them got a weak upper body.
No.
Like, you got to get to a high standard of upper body strength with pulling and pushing. But the reason why I said technique as well is because a lot of people think, oh, I don't need technique, I can just be super strong. I just pull.
I'll
just
put my hand up.
Yeah. Just pull, don't need my feet, I just campus. And they'll be like, oh yeah, you see that overhang there, Gav? I could campus that. Well, yeah, most people can. The impressive thing is, can you do that climb, which is like a V5 overhanging, that needs foot placement, foot technique? Can you twist to keep your body's central mass in? Oh no, I can't do that. So, okay, cool. Let's try it then. Let's put some foot placement in. Let's learn about pivoting. Let's learn about how to twist your foot. And then body technique is, can you keep your hips close to the wall?
What about mobility?
Oh, that's important too.
Yeah.
I'll say, that's a high importance. When it comes to athletes, they have to have good mobility.
Yeah.
Because without it, you're not going to be able to do certain moves. So if anyone's been watching a lot of the IFSC climbs, every single climber has fantastic mobility. They might say they don't, and be like, oh yeah, I could keep working on that. Everyone can always work on mobility. But it's impressive to see massive drop knees. It's amazing to see them doing massive splits or going feet above their hands, doing high heel hooks, toe hooks. Mobility is super important. And I think that's where a lot of people neglect as well. So, yeah, there's always more than 3 things. Let's say there's like 10 things.
Oh, yeah.
How do you chalk?
Yeah, chalk is going to help.
How do you program it all in then? Like, what does like a week of training look like?
For like a person to train?
Yeah. Ooh. Let's say like one of your youth athletes.
Yeah.
Like youth specifically, because that's going to be different to normal, isn't it?
Yeah, so what I generally do is give someone like a full week plan, so a month. And then in the week, I usually have people climbing at least 3 to 4 times a week. And that's also including some conditioning. It's also upper body leg workout. You're working on core, you're working on mobility. And the reason why I have 3 to 4 is because it gives you a nice few days in between each session to rest. And whilst you're resting, you're getting stronger. Your muscles building, your tendons are relaxed. Then you can climb again and get more strength into that.
So you put the conditioning in the same session as the climbing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it also depends, because then sometimes I'll move it from, let's do 1 day purely climbing, next day you're going to do conditioning, then the next day you're climbing again, and then you have a rest. But when you're resting, you can still do other stuff. Like, it's not just lying in bed and not doing anything. It's, go for a run, or do some skipping, do some leg workout, do some core. You don't have to make it extremely hard. It just needs to be at your level where you can still see gains, where you can still have like a nice upkeep on your strength.
I think like I certainly said as well, so for training non-athletes as well, same sort of approach of just train at the right level, just getting a bit of movement in outside.
Yeah, 100%.
What kind of differences would you see between training for your youth athletes and say someone who's just started climbing to come to you and is like, look, I want to train, I want to get better, but I got this limitations, I've got X amount of hours free a week. What would you prescribe to them typically versus an athlete?
So the main thing I would do that's completely different is I'll look at their work life and go, cool, well, you're free at this certain time and this day. What do you do it for? I just go out. Can you just do some climbing for fun or climbing for training? And then be really specific with the training. So for an athlete, their training program it's freaking hard. Like, it's hard. It's not easy. Also, a beginner will be slightly easier. Drop a few grades, think about more rest times for them, and then they're doing something similar to an athlete, but it's more catered towards them and where they're at. And the main one with someone who's a beginner is focus on techniques. So rather than giving them, let's say, a basic example, 4x4s, I'll do, cool, do a 4x4, but make sure you rest longer and make sure you're focusing on, let's say, 2 grades below what you can do, and do a lot of twisting. I want you to do a lot of technique, because that's how you're going to see most improvements.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of beginners think that, I can build up strength quicker. I can do weights, that's better. I can do more pull-ups, get stronger. Yes, that is true. But again, if you work on techniques, you're most likely going to push your grades harder, because you're more efficient on the wall too. So you're not, let's say you're doing your muscle workout, and then you got your technique workout. If you put it together, you're going to improve.
Yeah.
Rather than doing one or the other.
Do you think that for the average person, something like going to a gym and doing rock climbing, bouldering, belay, whatever, speed climbing, with a little bit of supplementary strength on the side, is pretty much a perfect full body weekly routine?
Yeah, I would say so. And the funny thing is, you see it as well, because a lot more people are coming into climbing who goes to the actual gyms.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm getting bored of just lifting weights. I can do that at home, I can do that at the gym, but I want something that's more full body workout. Climbing is a fantastic one for that, because it's the only real sport that you get to use your tendons all the time, especially in your fingers and your hands. There's no other sport that I really think about that's, fingertip climbing, or like fingertip workouts. No, it's pretty much just climbing. But I don't know, unless you do a sport where it is like that, like crawling on the floor, I don't know. I've never heard of that before.
No. You think it's got pretty much all components of periodization as well. You have your power and your big dynamic movements, you have raw sort of strength going on. Still hypertrophy, because to be honest, you go to a climbing gym, people have got good shape there. If their diet's in tune, they do get in good shape there, and it's like functionally in shape as well. Not just bulk for the sake of bulk, it's useful mass. And then strength endurance, aerobic as well, anaerobic, you can get it all in.
You can get everything, absolutely everything.
There was a couple of, it was back in October I think it was, I was playing around with the challenge, was in November, I can't remember. I went for a session, I went to Flashpoint, what was it before?
Rock Block?
Rock Block, that's it,
I still call it Rock Block, it's never going to
I still call it Rock Block, now Flashpoint. And I was looking at doing some sort of climbing endurance challenge, and I just, I clipped into an auto belay, put my headphones on, and I just climbed at the same route for an hour flat out, like for a cardio session, and everyone was just looking at me like, what the fuck is he doing? I was just going at this route, falling down and up, and my arms like, at the end of the session just blowing out. I was like, what's wrong with him?
Yeah, it's like, he can do circuits.
Screw that.
Do routes.
I just got like a VB or something, or it wasn't even, there was a little bit more than that. It was just a really simple route. I just kept flying at the wall, and it was a really good session, but it was so much more interesting to go for a run.
Yeah, 100%. It is very interesting, especially if you don't climb constantly. Then going into climbing from other aspects of sports is so different. It's so much fun. Like, you can see how many people get hooked into climbing. You see a video of it, and you're like, shit, that looks amazing. Or you just look at documentaries in Netflix, and just go, this is impressive. And you're instantly hooked onto it.
I'd be interested to see what's the kind of neurological development of a climber as well. Because one of the best ways, from what I understand, from my very primitive understanding of the brain, from just a couple of podcasts and books, is that one of the best ways to keep your brain young isn't to do crosswords and play apps and crap like that and read constantly, as much as I love it and I think all of that is good for cognitive function. It's actually to keep developing and unlocking new movement patterns in the body.
Yeah.
Think how many different movements you develop on one route alone.
It's fair. That's a fair point.
So I imagine for training, I'd love to see what Steady was like in that, because that's like such an unloved area of training, I think, these days. People go and train to stay physically young, but we don't think about the brain as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, with climbing, like it's like you were saying, it's very unique in it, in the way that it's done. So it must be quite hard to program it in a sense, because there's like climbing coaching is quite new, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, like, how do you go about, like, finding new techniques and everything?
Oh, man, it's a lot of conferences. It's a lot of conferences. I would say finding the best techniques is looking into other coaches and other sports. So, because climbing is so fresh and so new, obviously you got some amazing coaches out there. Like in Germany, there's one that I really like is Udo Neumann. When it comes to, I think it is Japan, they used to have Yuji. He is an incredible climber as well. And in Canada, Sean Cole, he used to be an athlete, but now is also a coach for Canada. So there's tons of them. So looking at how they train, also looking at their social medias and finding information. What do they do? What kind of trainings do they do? Do they have any books or so? That's where you find more climbing-specific training. But it doesn't mean you can take it from other sports. Like gymnastics is a fantastic one, especially when it comes to core strength and strength conditioning. Oh, I don't think there's any sport that beats it. It's hands down, to me, the best one for strength and conditioning. But going conferences like the PLX UK Sports Conference, it's free. I think they have it every year. But it's free to apply. And you can just jump in and listen to GB Olympic coaches and doctors and PhD professors talking about sports, talking about how they coach, talking about the mentality and mindset you need to work on as well, how to deal with an athlete. Another one that's really good if it's climbing related, I think it's GB coaching conferences. They're pretty good as well. If you're new into coaching, you're going to find a lot of knowledge there. Because they just have a board of people there just having chats and talking to you. And you can make connections there. So that's how I will go with finding new things to teach my clients. It's just broadening out, not just climbing, but other sports out there.
Yeah, mentioning gymnastics, obviously I'm a gymnastics coach, as everyone on the podcast will know.
Oh, really?
A lot of detail. The way I think of gymnastics is it is just the most advanced type of strength and conditioning you can do. Like, obviously you've got the somersaults and everything, but most, especially like as a men's gymnastics coach, most of it's just strength, like strength, conditioning and mobility. And that's all you will coach the younger athletes. It's like, let's just get strong. Okay, let's do somersaults and stuff for fun.
Yeah.
That's to keep you in the sport and keep you enjoying it.
Yeah.
Other than that, we're just doing strength and conditioning. Like, that's 100% it. And what I'm finding from, like, I've been helping with some Welsh basketball recently. I've, like, coached athletes of all these other sports. Is I'm finding, like, that the sort of more boundaries you have in the sport, like gymnastics is set equipment, climbing, you don't have any really external factors, especially with like indoor bouldering. It's like we've got these set routes that you have to do these things on. The almost more complicated the training has to be because everyone's doing the same training, so you have to push it to that extra level. And then when you see people like cycling coaches, they just make it more complicated in terms of like, we have to do this in one of those rooms where it reduces the oxygen in the air, and we have to do infrared sauna, and they have to overcomplicate it sometimes because there's not much they can do. It's like, right, you're just turning that crank round.
You're just trying to get those extra like 0.5% improvements everywhere to try and get like an extra 5%.
Whereas like with climbing and gymnastics, it's very much like we've got so many different things that we have to do to be good at this one thing, because it's so diverse, but it's also so set in how it is. Like, you're not a footballer reacting to someone coming in for a tackle. You don't have teammates. You just climb, or you just do this routine. That's what I've been finding.
It's like a edge of a knife. It's got to be so precise. There's like so much that goes into making that knife. So you said with obviously the influence for finding coaching techniques for training climbing, and you mentioned the GB coaches, the conference. You also mentioned as well that, because it was quite a new development, it's not like here's the book on how to coach climbing, even though I'm sure there's a lot, is you said you did some martial arts. Did you find that at all gave you any influence with your style of coaching for climbing? Because I notice a lot of martial artists love climbing and vice versa.
Yeah, I would say it definitely helped, especially when it comes to discipline. Right? So making sure you follow a training routine, making sure that you are dedicated enough, that really helps going into it. But I would say any sport you do to a certain level will teach you dedication. And will teach you to have that mindset, right? To be dedicated, to commit, to be able to be self-disciplined, to get better at something. So I will say it's not just martial arts, but also with other sports. to be honest, you can also take your previous career as an example. So my previous career was being a professional chef, doing patisseries. But then I was like, I don't like the hours on this. So then I used that, I would say, all the lessons I learned from there and transferred those skills into coaching. And it works really well because I have an analytical eye, I can think about fine details, can see fine details, I know how to teach, I know how to coach, I know how to talk to people. Not like Gordon Ramsay, but I can talk to people pleasantly. And obviously, all those transferable skills can come from sports or a specific career.
I did that with food photography, and I left because of hours as well.
Oh, it's awful.
It's working at 4 a.m.
Yeah, I was doing 60 hours when I was 17, 18, and I just hated it. I was like, I was not fit, I wasn't doing any sports, I thought I'm going to quit, just quit.
Looking back on it though, do you think it taught you a lot of lessons?
When it comes to catering?
Or just life lessons? Things you as you just said, that you could apply to sport as well.
100%. I think if I didn't go into the catering side, I wouldn't have those transferable skills that helps with the coaching side. The main one is having a stupidly analytical eye, where you're just visually looking at things and finding faults or finding mistakes or finding the good things and stuff, and then just going, cool, that's just a really good thing. Okay, write that down, that's good. I'm going to replicate that every single time. But I think that's the best thing that I got from it. And also being able to cook really good food.
That
definitely helps, man.
Like, jealous for that. I'd love to just like be able to just like bake and just be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna make myself a croissant this morning.
Oh dude, a croissant is so hard. Try to do a croissant in the summer season, it's awful. Especially at home.
As well. Out of interest, what martial arts did you used to do?
So I used to do Wing Chun for a little bit, and I was learning with my brother with that. So, and then the other one, which is more considered as a sport too, is now Kendo. We used to do Kendo a lot. And that was so much fun. Like, who doesn't like beating up people in sticks wearing armor?
Yeah.
It's just brilliant.
I love that.
So we've said that you've took some athletes to Austria recently. Can you explain like why you took them to Austria? Like, just it wasn't like a random.
No, it wasn't random.
Can you give us like a reflection of that as well? Because I'm like really keen to hear about your experience with that.
The reason why I took them internationally, so I had Sophie and Marlon. It was meant to be Emily as well, but unfortunately they changed the competition dates. It was meant to be June. They changed it to July, and it was the end of year 6 for Emily. So she needs to make that nice memory with their friends and all sorts, so she couldn't attend. But the reason why I took them is because I want them to realise climbing is not just national. It's not just a regional thing, and it's not just thinking in a small box mindset. There's other places in the world that does climbing. There's other centres that's just as cool or even better. There's loads of kids climbing, and also you can travel to climb. So that's the main reason why I basically mentioned to them, let's go to Innsbruck. The other reason was is because for Sophie, it was the last year to attend this competition in Imst. So the Youth Color Climbing Festival is for under 12s, and the next category is under 14s. And it just stops there. The reason why I took Manon, that was a funny one. She only recently learned how to lead climb within 2 months before the competition. That's not a long time. But I went, look, don't think about it negatively. Think about it as an adventure for you. So think about it as having fun. It's a new experience. You're going to meet new kids. You get to obviously be with Sophie, your teammate, and just enjoy it. And you get to be in a really lovely environment. She's like, yeah, that sounds cool. I'll do that then. No, she was anxious, and she was a bit disappointed about her results. But then we had always have a debrief, and always have a chat. So we're having dinner, and just went, look, it's all good. You did amazing. Your first time in the actual league championships, plus it's an international, and it's the biggest one. That was pretty impressive. And she was like, I'm pretty proud of myself now. I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's just making sure kids realise that everything they do is an achievement, especially if it's like a small step. It's still big.
Every time you step out of your comfort zone is a good achievement.
100%, yeah. She was stepping out of her comfort zone massively. She's never done any of these before. And she was like, I don't know what I'm doing. It was like, Gav said it's going to be fun. Okay, cool, I'll carry on. But that's the main reason why I brought them out there. It's getting them having that experience at a young age. and they loved it, and it was fun. It wasn't about the competition. We also went like having fun on the few days before. I think it was at the next day during the competition because they didn't make it to finals. On the Sunday all the way to Tuesday, we just went out and did stuff. So we just went out and had fun, and you just went, oh, let's go swimming. Oh, let's go do some walks.
It's such a good reason to travel, climbing.
Yeah.
I was going to say tour, but I was like, no, reason to travel. Like, the amount of people that go away just to, right, well, I really want to go to this country to do this one walk, try this one gym, and there's so much out there to explore around it as well.
Yeah. Oh, it's just tons. Like, it's a really good excuse. I think out of all the sports, climbing is definitely one of them where it's like, let's travel, let's go abroad, let's go climb outside or even indoors.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just fun. And I wanted them to realise it's fun. And you can do this without me. When you get older, you can do this in your own time. It's just making them realise, it's a bigger world out there for them. But also, Sophie obviously has ambitions of being an Olympian, or hopefully get climbing to Commonwealth. So I was like, let's definitely have some fun internationally and get you that experience. And they absolutely loved it. So couldn't be asked for more.
That's such like a good mindset to have as a coach. Like, I'm finding, like, I put a ton of pressure on myself as a coach. And sometimes you get lost in why you're doing it in the first place. Is you're trying to like build these qualities in them and make them realise like this is fun, like we want to do this.
Yeah.
Sometimes like I get so caught up in performance, and I guess it's kind of like the culture in gymnastics. It's like you're there, you're competing, and you're in this like little box and you're training. Whereas with climbing, it's like, let's go outdoors.
Yeah.
Like, this is so fun.
Yeah, it's like, look, it's not just plastic. You can also climb outside. And it's a whole...
climbing.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing I love about climbing, it's a lifestyle. So you don't have to follow the lifestyle if you don't want to. You can just do competitions if you want. But when it comes to some of my clients, I want to make sure they understand it is a lifestyle. So, like, for example, Sophie, I've been coaching her, I think she was 7. She started when she was like 6. But then I kind of took over in this session when she was 7, and now she's, I think, 13. 12 or 13. And I said to her, what do you want to do when you become a climber? Like, is there any kind of ambitions you want? And I said, I want to do competitions, I want to make it big. But I also want to have a van and live in a van. And I was like, oh, sweet, okay, that sounds really good. You're going to beat me towards that. It's just making all these kids realise it's not just about constantly competing. It's not about just, trying to be super competitive. You can do that, but make sure you realise that there is a lifestyle and you can have a wonderful time in climbing. You can just go into different pathways.
Climbing and surf, because I come from quite a surfing background as well, and I noticed as soon as I came to climbing that the two for me seemed so together. The sort of style, the lifestyle, the mindset, the people I've met. Most of them seem to do the same sport. They both do it.
Yeah. They're always going to do like surfing when it's nice waves, and then they go, oh sweet, let's go climbing now. And you can do it in like Ogmore. Ogmore's fantastic.
It's a perfect playground.
It is. It really is just stunning.
Climb on low time, surf on high.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's I agree. Surfing and climbing, like the pathways and the mentality of it is very similar.
The physicality as well is like, obviously it's very different movements, but there's a lot of crossover as well. Like there's a lot of back going on, there's a lot of core going on, there's a lot of sort of rotational torque as well, and hip power, mobility.
Yeah.
Muscular endurance. It starts to creep across each other, so they're quite good complementary sports, I find.
Yeah, they are. And oh man, I would love to surf. I just couldn't afford it just yet. I was like, I spent a lot of money in coaching. I'm going to stick to that for now, and then when I have enough, I'll try surf.
A little bit like climbing, where it's like, there's a big buy-in price, but then
there is.
Then the payments for that, they say, and it's like, oh, you're telling your wetsuit, okay, another £300 there, or like, oh, my climbing shoes have just, the heels gone, okay, well, they're going to be resold or something.
Oh man, yeah, climbing shoes are so expensive.
And just wax and chalk constantly.
Yeah, oh, painful.
So you're saying with Sophie then, she's got like these really ambitious goals. She wants to be an Olympian, also living out of a van.
Yeah.
Some people might not see that as ambitious, but like that's quite hard.
It's hard. Because if you break down the process goals in order for her to achieve to be an Olympian, there's a lot of steps. and there's lots of stuff that she has to do in order to achieve that. But yeah, it might sound simple, it might sound quite funny and quite charming almost. But yeah, it's a tough path. It's a really hard path, because you have to also be quite selfish with it. And be like, cool, I know I want to achieve this. That means I'm going to work super hard and just focus on me to get to that stage.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if it's what she wants, she can definitely achieve it.
Yeah. As her coach, have you got anything, like, do you plan long term for her? Do you have, like, a list of competitions and sort of make that periodised structure for her? Or do you just sort of, like, take it as it comes?
So, yeah, we always have to think about the future comps and, like, a future pathway. So, rather than just think about always, a few steps ahead, you have to think quite big, because you have to prep for it. So, it used to be so much easier. The British Mountaineering Council, so short for BMC, they used to only have, I think, like 6 comps every year. You got the YCFs, which is the youth climbing series, and that's always 4 rounds. Then you got the big finals, and then you have like the British Bouldering Championships, British League Championships, so technically it's 7. But now they added the 4 nations, and that only started last year. So that's 4 rounds of bouldering in the nation, and now there's also 4 lead championships in the nation as well. So there's now 14 comps, which is a ridiculous amount. So you can't just think about, okay, cool, we'll do this local comp in Bristol, let's say the BOF, and then we'll think about the YCS. It's now constantly going, oh my God, we gotta have a diary about competitions, what we need to train on, what to think about nutrients, what to think about how to train, and then go for that. Because you can't just simply do bouldering to work on lead. You don't get exposure. You don't think about, I need to get to the next clip. So many people, when they're climbing on lead, like, I don't want to climb above the clip. So I ain't doing that. It's like, I'm going to reach and clip and then climb over, when they could literally just climb above the clip and clip after. But yeah, it's constantly thinking about the future now, and making sure that we take the right steps and prep correctly in order to do that.
I have the dodgy clip experiences outdoors
it's,
anyway. I never lead climbed it.
Yeah,
so
when it happens, it's scary. Yeah.
When we went the time before last, and I seen him like pulling a rope up and in his mouth and like gumming it, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna try that. And then I was holding my teeth, and he told me afterwards, he's like, oh dude, if you do that again, he was like, don't grab your teeth. He was like, you're gonna rip your whole jaw out. Well, that would be nice to know beforehand.
It would be nice. You see that, so I do it. So I bite the rope and I clip, because I notice my instincts is, if I ever bite the rope and I fall off, I'm gonna scream.
Yeah.
So the rope's gonna just go out anyway. I'm not going to continue to bite the rope.
It's a natural reaction.
Some people tense up, whilst I just scream and go. But the other method that you can do, which I saw a lot in Europe, is when you're pulling the rope and you need more slack to clip, you can actually tuck your chin in.
Yeah.
So you pinch the rope on your chin and your neck, and then you can pull out more rope, which is probably a better option. But again, it's something I see in Europe, nothing I really see in the UK doing that. It's constantly biting the rope.
See, like, I don't bite the rope with my teeth. I put it like that.
He gums it.
And that, like, the rope's going to come out when you fall. Rather than if you've biting it and it's, like, behind your teeth. Because I've seen people do it and they've fallen and their teeth pop straight out.
Yep.
So, like, that has, like, saved me. But like I was saying to you, I wasn't an experienced climber previously, and I've made a lot of mistakes. And I'm lucky enough that I've come away completely unscathed from it all. I've never had a big injury from climbing. But then like I see my mates making the same mistakes, and I'm like, dude, be careful.
Maybe stop.
I always think of like Sam.
Yeah.
Sam is like our mate Sam. He's the one I was telling you. We started Monday Club together.
Yeah.
And we started climbing, and I've taught him like everything he knows. And you can tell that I've coached him because there's some stuff that he does, and I'm like, that's my bad habit. Like, maybe don't do that, Sam.
Like chair out, feeling you, coffee out.
I agree. The day we were climbing Taffs, and I turned around, I looked down, and he's not even he's turned around with his back to the wall, just sat down with his freaking vape pen, like. I was like, you're right down there. He's like, what's happening, boy?
Oh man, we maybe find a new belay partner, man.
He's just so chilled out, he is. Too chilled for his own good.
Yeah. It's like in climbing, so it's like what I said in the first one, risk assessments.
Yeah.
You gotta be constantly switched on.
Yeah.
Especially in competition. I'm not sure if you guys seen it, but in the Olympics when it was climbing in the finals, there's so many climbers being short roped by the belayers during the Olympic event. Yeah.
In the Olympics?
Yep.
Oh,
yeah. It was
who was the belayers? Like, was it just?
I think it was just local
volunteers.
Climbers. I think it was like volunteers from the local area just belaying.
I mean, that's the Olympics bad in my opinion. Don't just be like, yeah, we want some volunteer belayers. Like, yeah, sign this waiver.
Yeah. But yeah, it's get good belayers. You gotta be switched on.
Yeah, definitely.
I actually can't believe that short roping in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Imagine like going to the Olympics for I always use gymnastics because that's my main sport. I'm picturing going to the Olympics for gymnastics and they just haven't like tightened up the equipment. Just being like, well, these bars are like shaking as I'm swinging on them. This doesn't seem right. And they're like, nah, it's fine. We had some volunteers come in and do it this morning. Like, there you go. That's what you've got. I compete. It's like, how?
It's like, I don't really want volunteers, man. Get a qualified guy looking at this.
Yeah, I guess I'm sure like they had some of the best climbers in the world there.
Yeah.
Like, just get some guys that are like, they all know each other. Get them to belay each other. Obviously not the competitors, but like you could get like say Alex Honnold's there.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
competing, just be like, oh Alex, do you mind just belaying? I'd trust Alex Honnold belaying me. Just, Tommy, come here. Yeah, just chuck us on belay, mate. Cheers.
Oh, man. Have you ever seen the video of Magnus Midtbo on YouTube, the climber?
Yeah.
And he was climbing free solo
with Alex.
Yeah. I was like, man, look, if Magnus trusts Alex that much, maybe everyone should trust Alex if they wanted him to belay you. Like, he ain't gonna do you wrong.
Nah. I always think about that video with Magnus just like freaking out on like a really easy climb, being one of the best climbers ever, and Alex is just there like in tennis shoes with his camera out, hanging on, just being like, yeah man, it's cool, just like put your hand there, and Magnus is there like, oh my god, I'm gonna die, and Alex is just like, it's cool, just chill out.
Relax, just relax, breathe, it's all good.
It's so easy for Alex to say because he's like free solo expert, and Magnus has never done it, and he's like, oh my god, I'm like, if I fall, I'm dying.
Yeah, but that also proves a huge point in climbing. It's like you can be an amazing climber, super strong, climbing 8As all the way to 9As. But if you don't have that mindset, and you're jumping on a super easy climb and you're free soloing, but if you don't have that strong mindset like Alex Honnold, it doesn't matter how strong you are. Like, you're constantly fighting yourself, saying you're scared, or I can't do this. But technically you can do it.
Yeah.
It's just a mindset. It's just a fear coming in. But fear is not logical. It's just a huge illogical thing that pops in when you're doing any sports. It's like, you can't do this, or I can't climb above this cliff. I can't get this cliff because I'm really scared. It's like, well, if you weren't on the ropes, you can probably climb 3 moves up and be completely fine if you're bouldering. But it's the whole mindset side.
I learned that from, I started rope soloing last year.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, I've done some rope solos, I didn't know how to do it. I'm going to do some trad rope solos. And the first trad rope solo I did, I drove down to Dartmoor. I was doing this climb that I've done loads. Like, I love going to Dartmoor to climb. And I went up, I got to the first bit, I put my bit of gear in, and I went a bit higher, and I was like, okay, like, this is alright, like, I'm fine. And like Dartmoor, there's lots of cracks.
Yeah.
So I was trying to go for a hand jam, but I had a watch on. And I was like, I can't get my hand in enough to get this jam. And I was then like on the wall, and I'm like trying to like take my watch off, like putting it in my mouth, trying to rip it off. I'm like, I need this jam right now. I'm like way above the clip. I don't know if it's gonna hold. Like, I was absolutely bricking it, and like I got the watch, I've chucked it down, got onto the next ledge, and I was like, oh my god, I'm safe. Okay, there's nowhere to put gear here, I'm going to keep climbing. And I was kept just avoiding putting gear in because I was like, I don't want to be sat around now. And I get to the top, and it was like really easy climbing up to the top. And I'd had one bit of gear in on like this 20-metre route, which was like 2 metres up. And I was like, got to this point where it then just like goes back into an overhang, and you have to mantle round at the very top of the climb. And I was like, I haven't got any gear in. Like, this is so scary. And I was like, I've done this route so many times, and I was so safe doing it, and I just had that doubt in my head then, just being like, oh my god, like I could die. Like if I fall, I'm getting seriously hurt. And I was like, okay, just breathe. And I spent like a good 10 minutes up there trying to get myself round, because I was like, I don't want to down climb, but I want to get to the top.
Yeah.
I just want to get over. And after I got to the top, I was like, wow, like that was hard. I don't remember it being that hard. I set it up as a top rope, and then I did it easy, and I was like, why was I so scared? And that taught me, like, you just don't need to be scared. Like,
no.
Especially like trad climbing, a lot of the time when you look at like people doing like E9s and everything, and it's like, what, they're trusting that little bit of gear in that. Surely that's not safe. And it's like, they're not thinking of that as safety. That's part of the process.
Yeah.
They're thinking like the safety is me doing the climb and staying on the wall.
Yeah. And
they're trying not to leave that up to chance.
That's it.
And how do you get past that moment where you freeze on the wall? I suppose we'll start with your answer, then yours.
Cool.
When you get the moment where you actually, it can happen with good climbers as well, where you have that moment where you, as you just said, like you're there, free soloing, like rope soloing for the first time with the trad kit.
I mean, basically it was free soloing.
Where you just freeze and the fear hits. How would you get past that? Because a lot of people will just freeze and somebody needs to put them back down. Or they're like, right, you got to down climb it. How would you get past it?
For me, this is a good question. It takes me back to the first time I free soloed, and this was before I started climbing. So I was in Edinburgh at Arthur's Seat, and my mate was like, oh, we're gonna hike round this long way.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it looks fine to just go up this way, like a little bit of a scramble, but there's nothing. And I get halfway up, and it just goes to like sheer vertical, like actual rock climbing, and there's like grassy patches, and I grabbed onto this grassy patch and it rips off. And then I was like, oh, that was a bit sketchy. And then I looked down and I was like, oh, this is dangerous. Why did I do this? And I'd never climbed before, so it was just like a scary moment. And I was hanging onto the wall for like 20 minutes, just like, I don't know what to do. Like, I've never climbed before. I'm in trainers. And I'm like, okay, what do I do? And I think I just started breathing, focusing on my breath. And then I was like, I just got to keep climbing. And just that thought of, I have to do it, just made me do it. And I think that's just something that I've then taken on, because when I got into climbing and I went to Canada, as I was telling you, to do some big walls, there's a whole story about my mate like ditching me in Canada and me being like homeless in Canada for 3 weeks. But it ended up me being belayed by strangers and then being pulled off the wall, so my gear came out.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm not trusting strangers belaying me, which is why I'm so sketched out about the Olympics. And then I was like, what can I do? I'm going to free solo. So I started doing some free solos. And it just, I think that the whole thing of just breathe and know that you have to do it just made me keep going. I know that's not really good for most people, because they just don't want to be in that situation in the first place of freaking out. But yeah, just taking it back to my breath and being like, right, okay, deep breaths, calm yourself down, and then just focus on the task at hand. For me, that's what I would say. Is yours?
I would completely agree. Yeah, it is breathing. Because when you focus on the breathing, you're getting oxygen in, you're relaxing a bit more. It takes away the stress as well. So you really focus on, think about the breaths. Breathe in, breathe out nice and slow, recalibrate, then think logically. Because at the moment, it's just emotions.
Yeah.
So you have to think very logical. It's like, why am I scared? Think about the reason you're scared, and then think, okay, cool. What are the things that is going to help for me to succeed or help me get to the next level? So actually, I can do this climb. It's like, I know I can do this climb. The holds are good, the hand's good, I'm in a good position. Yeah, I'm freaking out, but I'm going to focus on my breathing, relax, then carry on. But it's breathing and thinking logically.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to say with any climber that I'm coaching, from beginner to all the way quite elite level stage, focus on the breathing. Because at the moment, you're just clouded with a lot of negative thoughts. I'm going to die, I'm going to fall off, I'm going to break my leg. And it's like, oh man, you're going through a whole story. Keep it short. It's like, how many things are you scared of? Well, I'm scared of doing all these 10 things right now. But yeah, just keep it simple. Breathe and just relax. You know you're capable of doing something. You know you're capable enough because you already done something similar. Or let's say, like, well, he's done climbs like that before and did easier climbs like that before. So why was he scared? Oh, it was just having a mishap. That was it. cool, breathe.
I think that is like perfect advice there. Like the way you've just worded it is like being logical.
Yeah.
I think I need to take that advice personally, and I know a lot of people that do, because it's just making me think about when I'm rope soloing, I can be like that because there's that danger element. And I was saying this on Kerry's podcast about flow and everything, is I was like, I get in that flow zone from that, the danger aspect, knowing that I have to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it puts me in that, okay, breathe, think about what you're doing logically. But when I'm lead climbing and I'm like climbing above a clip, I still freak out. And logically it doesn't make any sense, because it's like, if I was soloing this, whether that's rope soloing, free soloing, where there's that little bit extra danger, then I'm fine and I can deal with that. But lead climbing, I freak out. Yeah. I'm like, oh my god, I'm above a clip. How can I can't reach the next clip. What do I do? And I'm like, you could just like do the next couple of moves and get to the clip.
Yeah, and it will always feel better. And also, it's actually more safe, because then you're not pulling excess rope to go for a clip. Let's say that's 2 meters, you're going to fall 4 meters down. That's pretty sketch. When you could have, I could climb like a meter up and then clip. Sweet, that's only a meter excess rope.
I actually had this one when tasked the other day. There's a bit where I got stuck. I just couldn't reach the clip for ages, and my forearm was just going Popeye mode. They just go, I'm gonna go. And I was like, okay. I was like, what can I do? And I was like, well, where I am at the moment is I'm just building blood up. I was like, okay, let me just move and refoot everything. Let me give my hands a little breather. So I was like, hanky, I'll give that a breather. Give a shake, I'll switch, hanky here. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, well, actually, if I go up a little bit more left, I can go up around here, and then I can just sort of shimmy on over to it and just mellow out a bit and go clip back on set.
Yeah.
But when I was trying to go up, straight up to it, it just wasn't happening. And I just froze on the wall. And it wasn't like the fear of frozen. It was like I could not... Because I was so focused on like the pump and the tremble and the body sensation, I couldn't see the path up, and I was just tunnel vision on. There is the clip there. Instead of going, actually, if I lean back a bit and go, or actually go up around there.
Yeah, 100%. So it kind of feels like it was an irrational thought and irrational behavior, right? When you get scared, you get irrational.
Yeah.
And then when you take a deep breath, you think more rationally and go, oh, sweet, okay, I know where to go now.
Yeah.
Why was I looking over there? What a waste of time. You go for the next move, like, God, wasted like 5 minutes.
You get so tunnel vision as well.
Yeah,
You can
100%.
only see one thing.
Yeah.
Let's take that step back. And I was literally leaning back off the wall and like, oh, there's more rocks there. I can go that way.
That's the thing, there's always more rocks.
There's always more rocks, yeah.
It's just, is it audible?
Yeah.
That's it. So, what's next? What's next for you? What's next for your athletes? What's the goals?
So I would say the next goal for me personally is always constantly striving to improve my coaching as much as possible, right? So either that's by doing conferences, reading books, or going to see other coaches and doing workshops with them. That's the next step. And potentially become one of the GB coaches. I actually applied for it 2 years ago, and I was shortlisted and selected because of my interview doing online, and was invited to Sheffield in the Foundry to do a GB day kind of coaching interview. So that was really cool. I didn't get in for that year, but hopefully next year or the end of this year we'll be able to apply again if there's an opening role. But no, it was super fun. Yeah, it was super cool. I think I was the only Welsh person who was selected as well, so that's kind of cool. For my athletes, man, whatever they want, whatever their goals or ambitions are, I will help them reach that or get close to it. And then when we do reach it, then it's like, okay, what else do we get? What else do we have for your goals? What's the next step for you? So it's constantly moving. It's constantly going forward. It's never a setback or going backwards in any point. But yeah, that's my ultimate goal.
Are there any sort of like trips or competitions planned?
Oh, tons. Yeah. So we got all the nationals for this year and next year. The one thing I want to do more with all of my team members, so all the youth climbers, is to take them internationally. Either that's going to France, Northern France, or Belgium, Amsterdam to see the Excalibur Wall, which is the biggest freestanding wall in the world, or taking them to Innsbruck, not to go to IMPS for the Youth Color Climbing Festival, but going to Innsbruck just to experience the climbing there. Because every place you go to sets differently. And the one in Innsbruck is top class. Oh man, it is incredible. You go to it, and you park up, you're like, damn, that's an amazing wall. It's like a spray wall, it's just constantly filled. It's like 20.
8th wonder of the world, is it?
Yeah, it's just insane. Like, you see it and you're mind blown the first time you see it. And we always think, wow, the Europeans are so good with climbing. You know, what's the difference between their coaching and their climbing abilities compared to ours? And it shows by looking at the walls that they have, you know, looking at the infrastructure they have, looking at the way they set, the way they climb. It's incredible. That was the first time in Imps where I saw a tiny little girl, like age, I think 11, lead belaying a 12-year-old in a competition. And I was like, I've never seen that before, because it's unheard of in the UK. There's so many insurance laws, and I get it. It's for safety. It's good risk assessment. It's understandable. But the Europeans are so nonchalant. They're just like, yeah, cool. 11-year-old kid, go belay your teammate who's 12. Lead belay in a comp. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but I would say there's a lot of trips planned for next year and the years after. So more, I would say, frequent training and just fun little few days in Europe with the kids I'm teaching.
Incredible. Yeah. For you, what are some of the reasons that you love climbing so much, and not just love climbing itself, but coaching climbing?
Oh, it's fun. The one thing is just fun. Like, being able to see the progress of myself when I was climbing and how I was learning to coach, to be a coach. It's just fun. There's nothing else to it. It's just fun. I really liked it. And it's the same with watching my athletes. You know, being with them since they were like 6 and 7, all the way up until they're 12, and then having kids that I coach back in the day when I used to work in boulders. Started off as just average climber, average youth kid, learning basics, to also climbing extremely hard in national competitions. It's really rewarding, and it's because of that and seeing the future and seeing, oh cool, I can help this person and guide them in this pathway that they want to achieve, and achieve it, and probably go even further. So one of the main coaches that I know of, and is actually my mentor, Simon Rawlingson, super cool guy. He's the current head coach in Rock Block, now known as Flashball in Cardiff. But he was the one who coached me how to coach and was my mentor. I remember working with him in boulders and watching him coach the kids there in the comp squad back in the day. Like, I think Emily and Oscar, Zoe and Gwen. So those main 4 kids. I think Emily became British bouldering champion a couple of years back. Zoe became the British lead champion a couple of years back. And then Gwen and Oscar's climbing super damn hard. They'll show up in Flashball in Cardiff and just smash everyone out of the park when it comes to climbing. But yeah, you know, seeing that result and going, cool, that's that generation. Now let's work on the next generation coming up and see if they can achieve that same pathway that they want to get, or potentially even go further and become Olympians. But ultimately, that's down to the kid.
It's quite a unique perspective, being, because I'm a coach as well, so having that kind of role in someone's life where you're like a catalyst for like rapid transformation and growth. It's quite a unique and special thing to get to experience.
Yeah, it's super cool. Like, if you get into it, it's something that's incredibly addictive. Not in a bad way, but it's addictive because it's rewarding.
Yeah.
Because you see the output and you see the outcome of the individual that you're coaching, and you're like, oh cool, I helped this person. You know, I was just a catalyst and a guide, but ultimately seeing that person work hard, dedicated and well disciplined, motivated, they achieve what they wanted to get.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more rewarding unless you make a patisserie, like a croissant, and it comes out really good and you eat it and you're like, damn, this is a good croissant.
After coaching.
Yeah, after coaching.
Oh yeah. With your client as well, and you're like, look, I made this for you. I'm going to teach you how to make it. Become the master.
Yeah. Oh man, my athletes will be just not healthy. But yeah, I would say that's the ultimate goal, and that's why I like coaching.
Yeah. With V+ climbing coaching then, is that just you, or is that
just me?
Just you?
Yeah, so I started this, I think 2 years and probably a month now. So it all kicked off just because when I left Boulders UK, I thought, I want to start up my own thing and coach the way I want to coach and not have sort of limitations by, I would say, company insurance. So, for example, video recordings, looking at video analysis, because to me, that's the ultimate thing to do with an athlete or an individual is to show them a video. Because they'll be like, I didn't get this move because my foot slipped. No. You didn't get the move because you were scared of going for the next hold and then doing a clip. It wasn't your foot slip. They're like, no, it was a foot slip. No, I'll show you now. And they're like, I didn't realize that. So, started that 2 years and a month ago. And it's just me. Ultimately, I want to get to the stage where I can have individual coaches that's also self-employed and work with them, work on, obviously, youth and young talents or so. But at the moment, it's just me.
Do you outsource any of it? Because you were saying, like earlier, you have to think about their nutrition, their strength and conditioning. Do you outsource anything, or is it all done by you?
The cool thing is, my missus' mom used to be the head dietitian for NHS. So I get a lot of advice on her. I was like, this is awesome, this is so good. But I also got friends who know a lot of physicians and psychiatrists out there, people with a certain amount of knowledge that I can ask free advice from because they're friends or they know of a friend who can do that. But yeah, outsourcing is important.
It's quite interesting. The fitness community is very sharing.
It is, yeah.
Not just like fitness, but like fitness, the dietitian, psychology, physiology. They all seem to be quite willing to share with each other.
I would agree. I think it's because it's ultimately what we're doing as all that group is the well-being of an individual or well-being of people, especially when it comes to youth. So I like to give free advice whenever possible, as long as people are polite. If you're rude and you can't do like, what can I do for this training, Gav? Well, I'm not going to really want to talk to you. You seem like an ass. But I think it's because it's just everyone's there for the well-being and the health of an individual and want to see them prosper from it. So it is kind of unique that you mentioned that because it's kind of true.
I think the ones that are very good at what they do within that sector, they're saying they're in it for the right reasons. That's why they're good at what they do, because their heart is in it. But that's also why they're so generous with like, knowledge and sharing and connecting with others and networking. And then the assholes in the industry, well, they sound like a sole firm, really, just for money, just for this, just for that.
That's it. And it gives us a bad name. I can get where they're coming from. They spent years and time, they dedicated their lives to learn all this knowledge. It's hard to give free knowledge away. And I can understand why they act certain ways. The ego is quite a fragile thing, and that's cool. Keep it to yourself. But you're always going to find people who are open about discussions and open about giving knowledge. Like for example, like Simon Wallington is one of the best ones. You can just approach him, and if you're really nice to him, he will give you so much knowledge in return. But it's all about respect. So if you respect the individual, they're going to show you respect back. But like we said, there's some coaches and some people out there who just don't want to give information out unless you pay for it. And that's fine. It's business. It's a business where we live in.
Camel flow. You can't teach this movement in a gym unless you pay to have this certification. And it's like, I could just watch a video and learn coach anyone to do a movement. No, you can't. You haven't got the AF t-shirt and the certification. It's like, you're just doing a bear crawl. It's been around forever. Stuff like that.
Just insurance.
Some sports, that's just part of the culture, innit?
It is.
Like, again, taking it back to gymnastics, a lot of the time it's very closed off. You're in constant competition with each other. Certain disciplines of gymnastics are more like it with others, but, like, generally it's quite closed off. Like, I'm not telling you that knowledge. That's for my club. My club can know that. And then when coaches go to different clubs, then, like, the coaches at the old club are like, no, you shouldn't be leaving. Why are you leaving? Like, you're going to tell them all of our secrets. It's like, it's not a secret. You're just doing gymnastics, man.
So, look, I have this contract here. It's got your name here in blood. Okay, look at your finger. We got your blood here. You can't do anything. Oh, it's going in the bin. Down the chute to hell. Your soul, sir.
Oh man, this is turning into John Wick so quickly. You put your blood on this marker.
You can't go in the Continental Hotel anymore.
Exactly. But I think that people should give out knowledge, more often, especially if it's just like a fundamental knowledge.
Yeah.
If it's just to help improve someone and it's not completely advanced, like elite level, then just give some advice. Advice is a big way of giving knowledge to.
Yeah.
Go on YouTube. If you're I remember when I first started climbing, YouTube was my best friend.
Yeah.
YouTube was my coach. I was like, well, what's the flag? What's the drop knee? What's all these body techniques that climbers are doing? Why can people climb, let's say, a traversal circuit wall better than I can? What are they doing? But yeah, self-research is another thing that helps. You don't always have to ask the coach. I think my job, mainly with a lot of the new clients I get, is to confirm what they've learned online.
And dispel what they thought was true.
Yeah, 100%. That gives them confidence then.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool, I know what I was doing right then.
I think what's quite interesting with our kind of sector of the industries as well is that if you're quite a good, knowledgeable coach or professional in whatever area of it, whether that's like, sort of physio or nutrition, you actually understand there's a lot you don't know, and that the practice itself is continually development. We're always
100%.
learning new stuff.
Yeah.
And if you understand that it's constantly changing and evolving, then you're like, okay, well, the knowledge is a lot more dynamic and it's not so static, and we're going to know something 10 years from now we don't now. So if I can give advice now and really understand it properly, I can say, well, this is this at the moment, and it kind of depends because it might evolve in years.
Yeah.
Then I think it's a lot healthier conversation.
100%.
You're just not so attached to the information because you understand the information could change. Well, it will change.
Yeah.
And our perspective will change from that. And we don't get attached to that piece of knowledge. Like, I'm going to lock that away. I paid for a course and that's mine now. You can't have it.
Yeah.
I've got to have this place of power and superiority. And it's like, no, you're not in it for the right reason.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're for the well-being of others, man. Just help.
I think as long
just helping.
As long as you've got the fundamentals,
Yeah.
like the basic principles you need to know, and you have your own philosophy and ethos about things, that is you. That's authentic you and you as a coach and you as a professional, and that no one can take from you.
Yeah.
The way you understand things and relate to them, and the way that you show up then as a coach, you have that, and everything else just sort of flows through you then. That's like a bit of a catalytic converter.
Yeah, 100%. And ultimately, what coaches are a catalyst.
Yeah.
We're just here to guide someone or guide a few people to help them achieve their goal. But yeah, that's what I believe in. That's my ethos anyway.
I love that.
Yeah. Final question from us then. Looking back on everything we've spoken about, your whole life experience, everything to do with climbing and life, because as we've said, your life dictates like not just like your coaching, but your climbing and everything.
Yeah.
What is the one biggest piece of advice you would give to anyone listening to this?
Oh man, have patience. Have patience. Patience is a virtue. It's a hard thing to say to especially younger people because they don't have patience.
I don't know.
Yeah, but having patience is the ultimate key because you might find yourself in, let's say, a career path that you don't really like and you want to move on, you want to be a coach or something. But it turns out what you were doing was not just all negative, you had positives from it. And just being patient with it, and then when you go to the next thing, you're like, oh, I actually learned quite a lot from the previous thing that I did. I may not have enjoyed it, but I got some good skills from it. And it's the same with if you're a coach or beginning to become a coach in any sport, and you're working with individuals like you gotta have patience, and you gotta make sure that you take the time off to have debriefs, talk to them, talk to yourself, and look through all the little kind of like notes that you've taken. Because with patience, you're gonna excel. If you don't have patience, oh man, God, that'd be so hard. But yeah, of all the things I learned is learning to be patient. And that also helps when baking, so.
That's something I struggle with, I'm not going to lie. Like we were saying, I jump about for everything.
Yeah.
It's probably because I'm so impatient. I get that like really quick result on one sport, and then I plateau and I'm like, this is boring, what else can I do? I want to get good at something.
You know what we need to do is the Adventure Athletes Artisan Bakery now.
Yeah, I hope you guys have that.
Review plus climbing.
Yeah, so, what dessert is this? Oh, this dessert is gluten-free. So don't get bloated as much.
It'll be a climbing croissant kind of day.
Climbing croissant. Oh, that'd be good.
That sounds like a good day.
We've asked you a ton of questions.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for us?
Oh man, Put me on the spot. I hate it when people do this to me.
I mean, you came to a podcast. I don't know what you was expecting.
I did, I don't have any questions for you guys. Where do you guys see yourself going in like a couple of months, a couple of years' time? You're gonna continue with the podcast and broaden out, get a big studio? What's the dream, team?
That's one of the best questions I've had so far, actually. You want to go first?
I'll let you go first. Because we don't actually talk about this, we just sort of...
We just wing it. We just wing it and sort of go, well, we got these guests booked on for that, where are going to be next week?
Yeah, it is so back-to-back, like, you're our third podcast this week.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's like, it's so back-to-back. Yeah. I'm constantly editing, he's doing all the programming stuff at the moment. That's like, right, cool, edit, podcast, right, more editing, and it's just so back-to-back. Yeah. We don't get a chance to talk about this. So
That's fair.
I'm interested to see what Taylor wants to do.
I want to see you guys excel.
I suppose for me, it is all at the moment just going with the flow. Just sort of seeing what happens and not having... Still putting the work, still grinding away, still hustling, but not having a clear expectation at the moment of exactly what I want out of this and where it's going to be, say, 10 weeks from now. Yeah. And just seeing what happens. But still having some sort of idea in the background of like, well, we want to, develop a client base and have X amount of customers enjoying this service and that service. But then we are constantly throwing random ideas at each other, and it's just trial and error for me and seeing what sticks and what doesn't. But then as long as it aligns with the values and why we're here and what we're doing and sustainable long term, or maybe it's not sustainable long term, it's something short term project, but something that we can uphold and that we enjoy doing and we're doing it for the right reasons, then I'm in it for that. Whatever happens, I'm here now.
Love it. That's good.
Yeah, I'm more of the planner. I'm the one that's like got the calendar set up, being like, right, podcast here, podcast here, message everyone constantly, social media, editing. So I'm very much like a little bit different approach, but also very dynamic with it, as Taylor's realised. I've got this like grand idea that we've got the adventure athletes, we've got the athlete side of it covered. We do these stupid challenges and stuff, like Goggin-esque challenges, as I always describe them as. I want to get more of the adventure side in, and I want to branch out and get individuals who specialise in certain things, like you with your climbing, like Logan with his surfing, Sam with his mountain stuff. And I want to bring them all together under one roof, like still allowing them to do their own things, obviously, but being like, right, let's get people outdoors. Let's get people doing stuff. Right, you want to go climbing? Gav, people your way. You want to go surfing? Right, go Logan. And get like this massive network of people all like linked to the adventure athletes as like this umbrella sort of term. And then just, get them outdoors.
We want a community, don't we?
Yeah, develop it into, like, right, you've got your interest in the sports you're sucked in. Yeah. Let's progress you to athletes. And you've found the love in this. Yeah. And then building it in, like, right now, let's see how far we can, like, push it. Like, let's, like, develop you as a person. Like, what can you achieve? Yeah. And it doesn't have to be related to the outdoors, just,
I suppose with what can we do to grow you? A big part of this, then, for me, is just I want to sit down and have more cup of teas with really cool, interesting people like yourself. Every single time I sit down for one of these episodes, I walk away and I've learned so much. And I have to unpick it for days, and I'm like, learning some things about myself, on my own behaviour, about my life, about my coaching, and every episode I walk away from a little bit different for that. But thank you for coming on, sharing your brains with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure. It's been super fun. I love your answers as well. That's cool. Nice. Alright, well, aim big. Aim big now.
Always do. Well, again, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate your time.
No problem. You're welcome.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Adventure Athletes podcast. If you want to follow us online, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at The Adventure Athletes. You can also find us on YouTube at The Adventure Athletes as well. If you click on the link in our bio on either account, you can go straight to our link tree where you can follow us on Spotify, where you can listen to the Adventure Athlete podcast for free, where we have loads of amazing guests on from across the fitness and adventure industry and the much wider world as well. You can also follow the link in that link tree as well to our free adventure athlete program, which is called Average to Athlete 1.01 currently, but we'll be always updating throughout the future as we go. So if you do want to try a free program, we've got a bodyweight version and a gym-based version. Go follow us there and find out.